Collective. One, so that you get a little face of who's in our community, should you be interested in joining us. And two, so that you can learn more about the podcast journey of different folks, because every podcast journey looks different. Every podcast is not the same. And I think it's important to learn from all sorts of people. So today we have Lindsay Johnson. What is your show currently called? Or your channel? Or
I love that you're talking about the different journeys, because
exactly.
Legit, I'm going to really throw a wrench in it right now.
I love it.
So the podcast was called Work Less, Play More, the Work Less, Play More podcast, but I actually shifted to Playing Big podcast. And I really wanted to talk about how we can think big, play big, take big swings as entrepreneurs.
Excellent. Okay, so then let's start, as I've been having everyone do, with you telling me why you podcast. Or YouTube. So finish the sentence. The reason I podcast.
The reason I podcast is because I am a mouthy cowboy and I got a lot to say when it comes to entrepreneurship, personal growth, social psychology and culture. I got a lot to say and I can't keep my mouth shut.
And that is a good enough reason. That's what I love about podcasting and or YouTubing, which we're going to talk about, is that everyone gets to have a mic. If you have a mic, you get to use your voice and people get to hear it if they want. And the people for whom that message resonates, the other mouthy cowboys will show up and listen. They'll be like, I love this mouthy cowboy. So, Lindsay, tell me about this evolution. Let's start at the beginning and work towards where we are now, so that maybe that helps to inform where we are now. When did you start podcasting and how did it look when it was, and did it start as work hard, play more, or
work less, play more?
Work less. Why would you work hard? Work less, play more. Sorry, my brain's not working. So yes, tell us about the journey, where it started.
So when I joke when I say that people made me do it, and it's because I was really getting pestered by folks in my world to start a podcast. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to manage it on my own. I just was too busy. And so I waited till I was in a position to be able to hire people to help me produce it and edit it and stuff. That was in 2021. And I originally started with a YouTube channel in 2020. Actually, the podcast might've been 2022. Anyways, I originally started with the podcast in the YouTube in 2020. And I quickly found that creating both YouTube content and podcast content, it was too much. I'm a busy working business owner. And so that's where I say this evolution is really happening right now, because it's sort of like the podcast kind of gets like an afterthought. If I do a cool interview, I'll put it on the podcast. Or if I make a video on YouTube, I'll put it on the podcast. The podcast has been a bit of an afterthought. And so I'm working at going, how can I create content intentionally that works for both places? But I kind of wouldn't mind popping on the podcast from time to time, just for me to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. Are you thinking about the same thing? And just making it a little more unofficial for me, so I can have fun, being mouthy, sharing my thoughts, right? Connecting with the community without feeling overwhelmed of the sort of that traditional, podcasting hoopla, because there's a lot more than just recording a podcast episode.
So some people, a big debate or conversation, let's say it's not a debate, a conversation happening in the podcasting space right now is around video, and whether podcasting should remain audio only, audio first. What does it mean to do a video first podcast? Is video the only way forward? All of this because YouTube really in the last few years has come on strong in the podcasting space by really trying to create podcasting as a separate component within YouTube and really driving that home. And then obviously we've seen the follow where Spotify added video, now Apple's adding video, Netflix is in on the game, right? So this video component is a thing that scares some people off, but then there are people who are really excited about it. So what is it for you that appeals to you about video and about going sort of video first, and the traditional audio component is kind of the afterthought versus the other way around, which is, I think for a lot of people right now who started audio first, they're sort of doing the audio and the video is kind of the afterthought.
Oh, okay. So when I was playing with how I wanted my content, and again, guys, I'm in the messy middle. Okay.
I love the mess. As you may know, I love the messy middle, because no one needs just the pretty polished after. That doesn't tell us anything, right? That doesn't really help me. I want to know what's happening that's making that, getting you there.
And in fact, I just did a poll out to my community and I was like, what kind of YouTube videos do you guys want me to make? And a lot of them were like, we want to see the behind the scenes. We want to see you experiment with things and what did you learn and what worked? And right. Like there is that hunger for that. And when I was playing with what do I want the future of my content to look like, I had debated just closing the podcast completely. And I had other people say, no, 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 like keep making it because I like to listen while I'm out walking or out walking, driving or whatever, right? Doing chores. So my thoughts are do what you want to do and do what your audience wants you to do. So those are my thoughts. And so, I like video. I was doing Facebook lives, right? And then that came into like YouTube and then that came into, you know what I mean? Like I love video. I think the reason video is growing is because we like seeing each other. We like being in the room. The magic of podcasting is that you always felt like you were in the room. You know that meme where you're like, you're listening to the podcast, just try to remember the name of a movie and you're shouting into your microphone or your headphones, it's this. Podcasts really do bring you in. Video brings you in further. So I love video. I just love video. I do well on video. People love watching my videos. I have more fun with video. I can do fun editing and B-roll and GIFs. And, I really like video content. But my answer to people when they come to me and ask what I should do, it's like, well, what do you want to do? What do you like doing? What does your audience want? I don't think it has to be an either or. It's a whatever you want, man. It's the wild, wild west out there of content. You make what you want because non-video podcasts still perform very, very, very well. It's just that I think as a human, I think we connect more to video.
Well, and you mentioned at the beginning of this about the transition, part of it being like workload, right? Which we can all relate to of when you're running a business, it's all the things and it feels like there's the pressure to be in all the places and produce all the things and create all the content, blah, right? And so it feels like a lot. And I think one of the reasons some podcasters are like, oh, I don't know about video is it feels like more work. But you're saying I kind of want to go video because it feels like less work. So tell me what that looks like for you.
So you're already recording with somebody, whether you know what I mean? Sorry, no, let me take that back. If you're an interview style podcast, right, you're already recording with somebody. So you're hit record on video too, done, right? Like it's already there. And a lot of times, even if there's no video component to your podcast, people will still take clips of the recording session to use as promotional material for social media, right? But I do know what you mean if you are not comfortable on video and you're used to just reading off your notes into your podcast, into your microphone, that's a lot easier for sure, right? For sure it is. So I think that the hard work isn't necessary because the editing is the same, the scripting is the same, the upload, it's all the same. I think the hard work is getting comfortable being on video. I think that's the hard work because truly the work is the exact same. It's the exact same. So one of the coolest things that we've seen, if you follow, is Matt Bernstein, a little bit fruity.
Yeah, love.
Right.
Love.
And so one of the things I love with his podcast is he, right?
I honestly don't know.
I believe I will go with they. So one of the things with their podcast is that they read their notes. Like I tell people all the time, right? Like you can read your notes. You don't have to memorize a script and stare at a screen. You don't have to use a teleprompter. You can have your notes on. I have my second monitor. Have them here. You can read them, right? And so I think it's just the getting over the hump of feeling comfortable on camera. That's the hard work.
Yeah, and so much of that is the mental game, right? Because I think when you're talking about just hit record, whatever, I think I can hear people that I've heard say things like, yeah, but then I got to do my hair and I got to do my makeup and the lighting needs to look great. And what's my backdrop and all of the stuff.
Fair enough.
And some of that might be real, but also some of it is, does it matter to you? Right. And because, and to your audience, like my audience at this point, I have groomed them well enough to know, like, you're just going to expect me to show up as I am because that's how I am, right? Like there's no perfection here. That's not our pursuit. I'm not interested in it. But for other people, maybe there's the audience. It is a real concern, right? So I guess some of it's internal. Some of it might be external.
I'm also going to push back on that and be like, yo, are y'all just making excuses? because do you want to be a content creator or not? Like, you know what I mean? It's like saying, well, I don't know if I want to get a job because then I'm going to have to put pants on, and then I have to put a bra on, and then I'm going to have to get shoes on. Like, also, yeah, like if you want to make video and you want to look good, you're going to have to look good and you're going to have to make video. So I get a little annoyed, as you can tell, when people are using excuses as actual legitimate things. It's like, well, no, if you want to look good on camera, looking good on camera is what's required to look good on camera. Like, I want to eat dinner, but I don't want to make dinner. Well, then you're not going to eat dinner. You know what I mean? So I just think also you need to check in sometimes when you're just making silly excuses and get out of the drama in your head and get dressed and hit record.
Right, because sometimes, listen, in some of those excuses may or may not be like real forces, like I get, but then I also sometimes I think it can be like you're saying, excusing myself from having to do the thing that scares me, because maybe showing up on camera is scary for you, and there may be very valid reasons why, right? Because perhaps you hold an identity where there's going to be comments. Just because of the nature of your identity, you're going to get comments. And so then it's some of that, like, have I done the work to be able to manage what the feelings that come up, or the, whatever.
And here's the thing, Becky. I'm getting sassy today. What did I say? I have a loud mouth. I can't keep my mouth shut.
You're a loud cowboy.
Everybody gets comments. You can be the most pristine picture of perfection and, Eurocentric beauty standards and this, that, and there. Everybody gets hate comments. This is a thing, when I started working or creating on TikTok, it was under another brand that I have since kind of closed down and walked away from. But I was creating content there, and I was so nervous because I'm like, I know that I'm going to get all these trolls, all these hate comments. Can I handle it? And I was talking with a friend, and she was like, dude, of course you're going to. But if you're not going to make content because you're worried what they're going to say, they've already won. They've already chased you off the platform before you even started. And so there, again, everyone's a critic. Everyone's a hater. Everybody gets comments. And what you have to realize, again, as a content creator, that comes with the job. It's like when we worked I had restaurants growing up. My family had restaurants. Working at the restaurant, there were always employees that wanted to sue because they were unhappy with their hours, or there was always, customers coming back saying there was something wrong with their food, or there was always people that were mad that we were closed on a certain holiday. Like, literally, humans be hating. And so you have to separate yourself from other people's shit. Can I swear? Other people's stuff. You have to separate yourself. You have to realize, like, that's about them. If someone's going to criticize or complain or hate on you, that a person who loves themselves and is healthy and happy and well adjusted doesn't do that. So you have to see that is that person's they need therapy. They got some stuff going on.
It's about them, not you.
Nothing to do with you. And so again, like, we just cannot live our lives because somebody else hasn't gone to therapy. Like, we just can't do that. You got to show up how you are. And I want to say one more thing, Becky, and that is that my content, I don't make content as a content creator, at least not at this point. I make content as a business owner to support my business goals.
Well, and I just want to quickly say, I'm glad you're mentioning that, because you keep saying if you're going to be a content creator, you want to be and I think that's part of it. Is a lot of business owners are thinking, I'm a business owner, I don't want to be a content creator, I have to create content for my business. So I continue. I just want to say I'm glad you're addressing that.
Yes. Well, because those are two different things, right? And so, like, if you want to be a content creator, meaning that you are intentionally creating content to build an audience, to monetize that audience at some point, like, there's just things that come with the job. It is what it is. If you're a business owner who's creating content to drive leads, right, or to drive online sales, like, you're using it to create business, to create money, that you're selling your own stuff, right? That is different, because then you need to think about, first of all, from a strategic perspective, what is the content and what is the modality? Like, is it the medium? I'll say, is it YouTube? Is it podcast? Is it blog? You got to think of the medium and the type of content that is strategically aligned with your audience, with your customer, with your sales pipelines, right? But then also you do think of that brand you want to put out there. Like, are you the face of the brand? Are you doing faceless videos, or faceless podcasts? Like, what is the face of that brand? And if you're the face of that brand, then you're going to want to show up at representing your brand the same way you would if you were speaking on stage or on a panel somewhere, right? So again, just understanding why are you making this content in the first place? And again, I just challenge you to accept the parts of it that maybe are uncomfortable but are a part of the process, and get out of the drama and attachment to that, and just see it as neutral and as part of the thing. Because babies, you got way cooler things to do with your life than get caught up in online drama.
No joke. So then let's ask that question for you as a business owner who's using content as a tool inside of your business, not a content creator in the way that you've outlined. Why video for you? Is it because you, like, I know you mentioned you asked your audience what they want, but you sort of said there's the two buckets. What do I want? What do they want? And is it because that's where it collides for you and it just feels like video is the place?
That's exactly it. Like I said, I got my start doing Facebook Lives. Oh my gosh. Can I tell you, friends, when Facebook Lives first came out, okay,
the good old days.
It took me 1 year of making excuses, of being nervous, of having imposter syndrome, of like da 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 da. So when I'm like yelling at y'all, I'm not saying I don't also go through the exact same process, but it took me a year. And a lot of that also is just, I'm a big, like, it takes me a while sometimes to understand concepts and understand how things work. And also I'm a busy business owner. But when I finally got on there, the floodgates were opened. I was doing them 3 times a week. I was doing them with myself. I was doing interviews with people. So I just fell in love with video marketing very quickly. You know, I mean, I grew up doing drama and being on plays and playing sports and performing dances. I've always, give me a stage, baby, give me a stage. And so for me, that was the route I went. And then I actually took this course with Sunny Letterduzzi about like creating a YouTube channel as a business owner, right? It's old school, old. And so I did that, and I started to build out funnels and did the thing. So it's like it just organically grew. And then, you know, and again, if y'all go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I made videos consistently 5 years ago, and then they just really dropped off because I got busy. But you'll see that, or this natural organic thing, it's like the nature of video allows me to do things like teach business skills, or like I can show. On a podcast you have to tell, it's always limited, right? On a video I can show, and I do a lot of showing on my videos. So it just makes sense as a medium for the type of content I want to make and for what my community wants to consume in terms of that type of content. So that's why I say you need to think about what is the kind of content you're sharing and what is the medium that makes sense for you.
Yeah. And let's talk polish. We've talked a little bit about like visual appearance polish, but I'm just the polish of the video, because you mentioned B-roll, GIFs, things like that you can add. But we've also talked a lot about going live, and we're live. Kevin Chung, who's a member of the Podcast Collective, does lives all the time on Substack, or YouTube. You can do lives. I really enjoy the live because it frees me from the worries about perfection and polish, and I feel like it just broadcasts right away. You don't come expecting that. We're live, so I can't add the bells and the whistles. It is going to be what it is, and I feel some freedom in that I think when we talk about what holds people back from videos, like that polish. But where do you follow that? How much of what you're doing is live versus edited? And when you're doing edited, how concerned do you get about polish?
You nailed it, Becky. Okay, so when someone is new to videos and is thinking of a video podcast, I tell them go live, because it forces you to get it right the first time. It forces you. It's your energy is totally different when you come and it's live, or with a guest and it's live. We should share the link to our YouTube live that we did together as well. And so we had a great YouTube live. Anyway, so yeah, going live, it might seem really nerve-wracking, but it really is the best way to get great content that you can then literally repurpose into a podcast. You can edit, excuse me, when I'm editing, I only edit out really obvious things. I leave all the ums and the ahs and the likes and whatever in, because that's how we all talk, and that's fine. That's normal. That's not going to deter someone from listening. So yeah, going live, and then if you want, I haven't quite cracked the code on this for myself, but there are people who will do a live. What is his name? I can't think of his name right now, but he'll go live for like 4 or 5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And he talks about so many things. And then I can't think of his name right now. Anyways, and then once he's done, he then takes those lives and puts them into individual videos. Right. And so I have tried that as a format before. I haven't got that format quite smooth enough yet for me. They're a bit clunky, but you can re-edit a live and turn it into a video. You can leave it up as a live. You can put it into a podcast. You can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to actual pre-recorded videos, here's what I say to that. If you're new, just do talking head. Just put yourself on screen and talk. And then when you're editing, if there's points that you made that you want to stand out, go to Canva and create just a little card that reiterates the point, and then throw it into the editing software and go, here, at this point, I'm going to flash this on screen just to give it a bit of visual interest, right? Visually interesting. But like, just talking head it, it's fine. And then as you get more comfortable with editing, or you have a budget and you can hire support with editing, then you can add lots of B-roll and GIFs or sound effects or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think people see the big YouTubers who have like, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, and they've got paid people, like people are paid to edit all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
They're not necessarily doing that themselves, right? And so, or if they are, they have developed this skill over years, right? So I think just friggin' hit record and go. Somebody once said this, and Becky, I'm sure you said this before too, right? If you don't look back at your like original early content and cringe just a little, you waited too long to start. Yeah,
Exactly.
Right. And so, whoops, sorry, I've got a warning on my thing. Anyways, and so, like, just get started. Know that you'll get better. Your editing will get smoother and the polish will come. Have a decent mic, have some good lighting. And oh my God, Becky, the amount of podcaster or YouTubers that I follow, when they got their beginning, they're sitting on their floor against their bed. And that's how they're recording. Like, it doesn't matter. If the content is good, people will listen.
I mean, there are Twitch folks, and I'm not a Twitcher, but there are Twitch folks that I see where I'm like, their setting couldn't be more atrocious, and they have millions of followers, right? I think some of it, like you said, going back to the beginning of this, some of it is excuses and or just mental blocks that we have that we're making excuses for, and we just have to do it. So yeah, I agree. And just as a point, like that part where I had you say the reason I podcast is because I already have plans for all of these. I'm going to be taking all of those from these conversations and turning them into something that I can then repurpose for the podcast collective in different places. So like with a very small amount of thinking ahead, you can do things like that. But also, I mean, thanks to AI, whether we like it or not, most platforms now, they just generate clips for you too. So it's really easy then to share clips as YouTube shorts or, on social media. And so it's really easy to make your content go farther. And you can do the same with audio, but when you do video first, audio is easy. Because like you said, then you throw things on your podcast feed anytime. So
the amount of times that, like, back when I was in a regular schedule with my podcasting, where I was like, I haven't had time to make a podcast today, I would just go grab an old YouTube video and just rip the audio and do a new intro and put it up. Like, that's the thing, right? Like,
I don't undersell that, because we always think it's got to be new, but that's going to be new to 99% of people, right? Because people cycle through content and people they're following. You've got a whole new audience years later.
Yeah. Well, and even like the amount of times that I'll like, again, not now, but back in the day, would just go read a blog. I'm like, oh, I wrote a blog on this, or I wrote a LinkedIn article on this. I'm going to go just read it into my podcast mic and add a few extra questions. Because here's the thing. Okay. And I don't say that like the blogs are good. The questions that I add are good. Like, it's not like the content's kind of crappy. It's good content. Here's the thing. However you deliver it, video, audio, background, polish, if the content is good, people will consume it.
Exactly. And we create so much content now that it's mind-blowing and we should be reusing that content. So I can't recommend that enough. I think that's fantastic. Okay, I want to be mindful because I'm trying to keep these under 30 minutes. I want to wrap up here with, as somebody who is doing video first, and you're a YouTuber, I guess, who also though has who also has a podcast feed where you're occasionally putting things and kind of playing with both. Why be part of, and I hope I'm not talking you out of, why be part of Feminist Podcasters Collective? Do you think of yourself as a podcaster? Is there, you know what I mean? For those people who are doing video first, YouTube led, I don't know if do you think of yourself as a podcaster now, or like, where's your head at with all that?
That is a great question. And whenever I go to the Feminist Podcast Collective gatherings, I'm always inspired to get back into doing more podcasting first stuff. So, but here's the thing. If you go to my podcast, there's some overlap with YouTube, but it's mostly original content. And it's a lot of interviews and things like that, right? Uh, am I a podcaster? Am I a YouTuber? I say yes with an asterisk. I say yes with a bit of imposter syndrome because I'm not as I'm not big. I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be. It is something that I'm working to create space in my calendar to be able to do more because I do want to say podcaster and YouTuber, but I do feel a little bit like I can't quite claim that title the way that other folks in the feminist podcast collective can. And so I go there to be inspired. I go there to connect with others and hear what they're making, what they're doing. And like it is creating content is such a heart-led, soul nourishing, raw human thing, and I love being amongst people who are in that and doing that and getting that inspiration that I don't get in the same way when I'm at a conference or an event talking about business stuff. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Well, and I would just say, I think the lines have gotten so blurred in the last 2 years because YouTube really has gotten into the podcast game and really has been a bit of a leader in changing what we know about podcasting. And do I think audio first or audio led is really the heart of podcasting? Absolutely. And I'm not here to fight with anybody about it. That said, I think there is something to be said for those folks who are leaning more into video, still maintaining a podcast feed, reimagining how they're using that, doing some overlap, doing original content, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is, I'm a YouTuber and I have a podcast feed where I drop the audio of my YouTubes, you're still a podcaster, I think. And so I just want to throw that out there that I think I think the medium is important, but I also think it's about the experience.
Mm-hmm.
The experience to me is, am I creating intimate spaces to have conversations with my community, right? And I think that's sort of the heart of what podcasting is about. So I say you should own it.
Yeah, and I think it's the heart of content creation, period.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
exactly.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Anything about this journey, because like I said, that's really what I want to share in this series is everyone's journey with podcasting and relationship to it is going to look different and it evolves. Every person I've talked to, their journey has evolved and it does not look the same on day 300 versus 100 versus 1 and so on. Anything else about your journey we didn't talk about that you'd want to make sure that I include as we wrap up?
I think, I consistently get really positive feedback on my YouTubes, on my podcasts. Again, like I said, the podcast does have a ton of original content and original interviews that are not anywhere else. And I'm constantly getting great feedback. And, to hear myself answer, I don't feel like a podcaster. I don't feel like a YouTuber. And yet I make podcasts and I make YouTube and they are impacting people. I think the thing would be that, don't undervalue yourself and your voice and the content you're creating, even if you're still small. Because I definitely can hear myself doing it now as I'm in my messy middle. For what?
Right. You need to watch this video back and hear yourself because you would tell yourself, stop it. That's all like excuses or BS or whatever the truth is. If you do the thing, you are the thing, right? Like if you put a podcast out and not a single person listens, you're still a podcaster. You're still doing it, right? And don't give up. Like evolve. I think evolution is great, but don't discount yourself. Don't give up. So thank you, Lindsay. Everybody needs a loud cowboy and somebody who can whip them into shape when they start to let their excuses get the better of them. So thank you for being that. Thank you for being part of the podcast collective. I guess the only other thing I didn't ask you is just like, and I think you kind of answered it with the inspiration, but just to make sure, what role does having a community play for you in podcasting?
It's literally that. It literally is inspiration, motivation, creative ideas and idea sharing, troubleshooting. It is, if you are a content creator, you need to be in a space with other content creators because that is a very specific journey that you're traveling and you want to have people that get it traveling with you. It is what's the word? Invaluable.
Yeah. So check out the Feminist Podcasters Collective. You can go to feministpods.com or wherever you are, check us out. And you can join Lindsay, me, and all the other people in this series. And Lindsay, where do people go to watch your YouTube videos and or your Substack? I mean, your podcast, or
We
just
have
learn
to talk
it.
about Substack. That's
No,
not
no,
how that
listen.
in the mix.
It's kind of like all the places. But anyway, sorry, my brain is like frying. It's afternoon.
So
Go ahead.
you can go to theradicalconnector.com and you'll get access to my podcast there. You can find me on YouTube under the Radical Connector, or go to Instagram and the link's in my bio. Everything is in there. So on Instagram, I'm Radical Linz, YouTube, the Radical Connector, or theradicalconnector.com.
Perfect. Thank you for doing this, Lindsay. I really appreciate it.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Becky.
Well, anytime we go live, we could talk probably for 5 hours, but we're going to stop ourselves. I'm really trying to be mindful of
Very, very good. Well done.